Welcome back to my YouTube channel, LC Coins World, where we take a deep dive into the fascinating world of coins and their hidden stories. Today, we will explore the 1964 Lincoln Penny A coin that is more than just a small piece of copper. It is a window into American history, culture, and economy, and for the next 2 hours, we will carefully travel through its origins, design, minting process, historical context, and the reasons why. This coin still captures the attention of collectors and historians alike. The 1964 Lincoln penny was struck during a period of great change in America. It was part of a series that began in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Lincoln was chosen as the face of the cent because he symbolized unity, freedom, and perseverance. The 1964 issue came at a time when the United States was undergoing major social and political transitions. The civil rights movement was at its peak. President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated just a year earlier, and the Vietnam War was beginning. To escalate in this climate, even a small coin like the Lincoln penny carried symbolic weight, representing not only monetary value, but also the endurance of American ideals. When we talk about the 1964 penny, we must understand its physical characteristics. The coin was composed primarily of copper 95% with a small mix of tin and zinc to give it strength and durability. It weighed 3.11 grams and had a diameter of 19 millimeters. Its obverse featured the famous bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had been in use since 1909, and by 1964, it had become one of the most familiar images in American life. Brenner's initials, VDB, were originally included on the coin in 1909 at the bottom of the reverse, but after public criticism for being too prominent, they were removed. Later, they were reintroduced in 1918, but in a smaller form beneath Lincoln's shoulder, where they remain to this day. The reverse of the 1964 penny carried the classic wheat ears design with 2 stalks of wheat framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the national motto E pluribus bonum. This wheat design had been part of the penny since 1909, and it symbolized prosperity, agriculture, and growth, themes central to the American identity. The wheat reverse would remain until 1958, but here is where it gets interesting. In 1959, to mark the 150th the anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial, created by Frank Gasparo. So by 1964, every Lincoln cent featured the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse instead of the wheat stalks. This means that the 1964 penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which lasted until 2008. This memorial design made the 1964 penny very distinctive. Not only did it honor Lincoln on the obverse, but it also placed his legacy in context by showing the monument dedicated to him in Washington, D.C. This created the unique situation where Lincoln basics of saving money, banks and schools even distributed coin boards encouraging young savers to collect Lincoln cents by date and mint mark. The 1964 penny was part of this educational journey for millions of children across the country. For collectors, today a 1964 penny in circulated condition is generally only worth face value. However, uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS-66 or higher, can be worth significantly more. Proof versions struck in San Francisco for collectors are also popular. They were struck on specially prepared dies and polished planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish, which makes them desirable pieces for numismatic collections. The 1964 penny also marks an important transition in American coinage. Shortly after this year, the U.S. Mint began facing serious challenges, with silver coinage leading to the Coinage Act of 1965, which removed silver from dimes and quarters. Although pennies continued to be made of copper through the early 1980s, the general trend was toward cheaper compositions. The 1964 penny therefore represents the last years of traditional American coinage before these drastic changes took place. Throughout this video, we will continue exploring the social, economic, and cultural backdrop of the 1964 penny, from its artistic design to its production challenges, from the stories of ordinary Americans who used it every day to the legacy it holds in the hearts of collectors. We will connect the dots between history and numismatics, showing how a tiny coin can reveal so much about the life and times of an entire nation. So stay with us as we embark on this 2-hour journey into the world of the 1964 Lincoln penny. A coin that may seem small in your hand but carries a giant story in the history of the United States, and by the end of this video, you will not only know its value and varieties but also understand why it deserves a special place in both collections and memory. Would you like me to expand this into a full 2-hour style script, broken into chapters, like history, design, minting, varieties, errors, cultural significance, collector's value, and legacy, so you can directly use it for your channel narration? Travel back in time through the history of coins, uncovering their stories and values. Today, we will dive deep into the fascinating history of the 1978 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that for many of us was simply an everyday piece of change, but which today carries historical weight and emotional value beyond its face worth. The story of the Washington quarter begins long before 1978, taking us back to 1932 when the United States was preparing to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The country wanted a lasting tribute to the man who had led the fight for independence and become the first president of the United States at a time when the Great Depression was weighing heavily on the nation. The idea of replacing the standing Liberty quarter with a design featuring Washington himself was met with great enthusiasm. The final design chosen for the coin was created by sculptor John Flanagan and featured a left-facing profile of George Washington on the obverse with the word Liberty arched above and the national motto, "In God We Trust." To the left, the reverse displayed a majestic bald eagle with outstretched wings perched upon a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and preparedness, and framed by olive branches representing peace. By the time we reached 1978, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for 46 years and had become one of the most familiar and trusted coins in American pockets. The silver content of the quarter had been removed more than a decade earlier, starting in 1965, when rising silver prices forced the United States Mint to switch from the 90% silver alloy to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This change meant that the quarters from 1978 were struck with an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between two layers of a copper-nickel alloy, giving them a total weight of 567 grams and a diameter of 24.3 millimeters. The year 1978 itself was a unique moment in American history. The nation was still feeling the aftereffects of the Vietnam War. The energy crisis of the 1970s was shaping the economy. Inflation was a real concern for families across the country, and cultural shifts were taking place, from the disco craze dominating the music charts to the rise of new political debates. Through all of this, the Washington quarter continued to pass from hand to hand in grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and countless small daily transactions. In terms of mintage, the 1978 Washington quarter was produced at two main facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which struck coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which used the D mint mark located to the right of Washington's braid on the obverse. Philadelphia produced hundreds of millions of these quarters, while Denver also contributed a substantial mintage, ensuring that the coin was widely available across the country. The high mintage numbers mean that most 1978 quarters in circulates today hold only face value, but for collectors, the true interest lies in finding high-grade uncirculated examples as well as rare errors and varieties. Some of the most sought-after errors for this date include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing due to a misaligned strike, double dies, where elements like lettering or the date appear doubled, and striking errors such as broad strikes or coins struck on the wrong planche. These error coins can fetch significant prices at auction, depending on the severity and visibility of the flaw. Coins graded at the highest mint state levels, such as MS66 or MS67 by professional grading services, can also command strong premiums, particularly if they exhibit full luster, sharp detail, and no signs of wear. One of the reasons the 1978 Washington quarter is so nostalgic for many Americans is that it represents the final years before the major design and composition changes of the 1980s. While the Washington portrait would remain the same for many more years, the world around the coin was evolving rapidly. By 1979, the Susan B. Anthony dollar would debut, signaling a new era of experimentation in U.S. coinage. And by 1982, changes to the cents composition from copper to Copper-plated zinc would mark a broader shift in the metals used for everyday money. For those who lived through the late 70s, the quarter was a constant companion, whether you were feeding it into a payphone to make a call, buying a soda for 25 cents, or playing your favorite song on a jukebox. It had a tangible presence in everyday life that younger generations today may not fully appreciate. Holding a 1978 quarter now is like holding a small piece of that era, a link to a time when money was physical and tactile, not just numbers on a screen. From a collector's perspective, the 1978 quarter might seem common, but its story is layered with meaning. It is a coin that reflects both continuity and change, a design rooted in the ideals of leadership, liberty, and national pride, yet struck in a period of social and economic uncertainty. The Washington Quarter series as a whole remains one of the most collected in U.S. numismatics, and the 1978 issue plays its part as a bridge between the early years of the series and the modern clad era. When we look at a 1978 Washington quarter, we are not just seeing metal, we are seeing artistry, history, and the lives of countless Americans who touched and used that coin, from factory workers receiving their wages to children buying candy. It is a witness to millions of personal stories and small moments over decades. Later, collectors still search for pristine examples of this coin, hoping to preserve a flawless version of something that was once so ordinary that no one thought twice about spending it. And in that pursuit, the 1978 Washington quarter continues to live on, not just as currency, but as a piece of American memory.